Manipulation is not always shouting. It's not always a villain twirling a mustache. Most of the time, it's quiet. A sentence here, a pause there. A look that makes you doubt something you were sure of 5 seconds ago. And the worst part is, it works on smart people. It works on strong people. It doesn't target weakness, it targets trust. Here are 10 manipulation tactics, how they actually work on your brain, and exactly how to shut them down. Some of these you'll recognize instantly. 1 or 2 of them are so subtle, you've probably used them without even realizing it. Gaslighting. Gaslighting is not lying. Lying is simple. Gaslighting is convincing you that your own memory, your own senses, your own mind cannot be trusted. It sounds like, that never happened. You're remembering it wrong. You're too sensitive. Small at first. A detail here, a detail there. You start questioning yourself instead of them. Sarah spent 6 months apologizing for arguments she was sure she hadn't started. One night, out of habit more than suspicion, she reread old text messages. Every single one confirmed what she already knew and had been talked out of believing. She had been right the entire time. That's the actual mechanism. It's like someone slowly replacing the map in your head until you stop trusting your own sense of direction. Not to win one argument, to become your only reliable narrator. How to combat it? Write things down. Keep a private record, dates, what was actually said. A paper trail doesn't argue back, it just sits there being true. Trust the fog itself. If conversations with this person consistently leave you disoriented, that disorientation is the evidence. Love bombing. This next one feels incredible while it's happening. That's exactly why it works. Someone showers you with attention, constant texting, gifts, declarations of fate, within days of meeting you. It feels like being chosen. What it actually is speed. Manipulators use intensity to skip the part where you'd normally notice red flags. You don't vet someone properly while you're flooded with dopamine. Then, once you're attached, the intensity vanishes. And you spend months chasing the version of them from week 1, a version that was never sustainable because it was never real. It was bait. How to combat it? Slow down on purpose. Real connection survives a slower pace. If someone reacts badly to that, the reaction is your answer. The silent treatment. This one is quick, but don't underestimate it. Being ignored by someone close to you activates the same brain regions as physical pain. That's not a metaphor, that's neurology. No explanation, just cold, deliberate absence. You start apologizing for things you didn't do, not out of guilt, but because the silence is unbearable and apologizing ends it fastest. Your own pain becomes the lever they pull. How to combat it? Don't fill the silence with anxious apologies. Name it out loud. It seems like you're shutting me out instead of talking to me. Then, give the silence back its real weight by calmly stepping away yourself. Guilt tripping. The next technique is used by manipulative partners, guilt-driven parents, and honestly, half of advertising. Guilt exists to help you repair real harm. Guilt tripping hijacks that system for things that were never your fault. After everything I've done for you. Fine, don't worry about me. None of these are requests. They're traps designed to make saying no cost more than it should. How to combat it? One question. Did I actually do something wrong? Or am I just being made to feel like I did? Real guilt has a specific cause you can name. Manufactured guilt is vague and always conveniently solved by you giving in. DARVO. This one is the most disorienting tactic on the list, and if you've ever walked away from an argument confused about how you ended up apologizing, you've probably lived it. DARVO stands for deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender. You bring up something they did wrong, they deny it, they attack you for bringing it up. Then, somehow, they've become the victim, and you're consoling the person who hurt you. Marcus once confronted his roommate about unpaid rent. 10 minutes later, he was apologizing for being too aggressive about money, and the rent still wasn't paid. He didn't notice the flip happening. He only noticed the aftermath. How to combat it? Stay anchored to the original point. We're talking about what you said Tuesday, not my tone right now. Repeat it as many times as it takes. DARVO runs on speed. Slowing the conversation down breaks it. Triangulation. Quick one. Triangulation drags a third person into a conversation that should only involve two. Even my mom agrees with me. Real or invented, the goal is the same. Make you feel outnumbered so the boundary feels harder to hold. How to combat it? Refuse to argue with an invisible jury. I'm not discussing this with your mom, I'm discussing it with you. An opinion from someone who isn't in the room isn't evidence, it's a prop. The foot in the door. Move slowly, almost invisibly, which is exactly what makes it dangerous. It starts with a small, reasonable request. You say yes. Then a slightly bigger one. You say yes again, partly because saying no now would feel inconsistent with the last yes. Each agreement makes the next one easier to extract. Emmy once described it perfectly. She said the request that finally broke her wasn't even that unreasonable on its own. It was unreasonable stacked on top of 40 small yeses she'd already given without noticing the staircase she was climbing. How to combat it? Judge every request on its own. I said yes to that, but this is different, is a complete sentence. Intermittent reinforcement. This is the most addictive tactic here, and it's the reason people stay in relationships that are clearly hurting them. Reward and punishment arrive with no pattern. Warmth, then coldness. Affection, then cruelty, and you never know which one is coming next. Unpredictable reward is, to the brain, more addictive than consistent reward. It's the exact mechanism behind slot machines. Your brain doesn't disengage from unpredictability, it locks onto it, chasing the next good moment the way a gambler chases the next win. James kept a private note on his phone for 1 month, marking each day good or bad. He expected it to be close to even. It was 11 good days and 19 bad ones. He'd remembered it as almost 50-50 because the brain holds on to peaks and quietly erases the valleys. How to combat it? Track the pattern over weeks, not moments, on paper, outside your memory. The spell tends to break on its own once you see the real ratio. Negging. Fast one. A backhanded insult wearing a compliment's clothes. You're actually really pretty for someone who doesn't try. The goal isn't the insult. That would be too obvious. The goal is a tiny splinter of doubt that makes you want their approval a little more. How to combat it? Name it flatly, no anger. That sounded like an insult. Most manipulators rely on you not clocking it in real time. Naming it strips the disguise off. Future faking. A promise used as currency in the present, so it never has to be tested today. We'll get married once things settle down. I promise I'll change, just give me this last chance. Here's the part that should stop you cold. Studies on unfulfilled relationship promises show the pattern repeats almost identically across different people and different relationships. A new promise arriving right before the old one would have been due, timed just precisely enough to reset the clock on disappointment. How to combat it? Judge the relationship by current behavior only. A promise about the future is not evidence of anything. Only a track record is. And the one last thing. Manipulation works because it borrows real human mechanisms, guilt, love, hope, trust, and quietly points them in the wrong direction. None of these tactics mean you're gullible or weak for having fallen for them. They're built to work on anyone. The people who spot them fastest usually aren't the hardest to fool. They've just seen the pattern before. Now you have two.